everyone, my name is Robert Couto, and thank you so much for watching Eating Healthy with Robert Couto. Today we're going to be talking about the nutrition facts. So I have here is the nutrition facts that gives a guide for a lot of people on what to aim for and what to kind of use as their food choices. So if you guys remember, I actually talked about the USDA My Plate and how it's a kind of a guide and tool for people to eat healthy. And it actually works really well with the nutrition facts as well too. So today we're going to go over the nutrition facts and we're going to go through each one of these and what to aim for and why it can be so confusing for a lot of people that when they're shopping, sometimes they buy things that may not be the best for them, or they might be confused because a simple bag of hot Cheetos might say 200 calories for one serving, but really there's 16 servings in there. So we're gonna go over that as well too. And we're also gonna be talking about the new proposed nutrition facts as well too, okay? So first we're gonna be just going through a standard nutrition facts from a food, and I wanted to show you guys here, okay? So you can see here that we have a nutrition facts from an unknown product, and it has a serving size of 2/3 of a cup. So if you guys don't know what 2/3 of a cup is, it's a 1/3, but two of these in there, one serving. But when you see there's more than one serving per nutrition fact, so there's 8 of them. So it might be a little bit confusing for a lot of people because they might think that there's only 230 calories in that food product, but there's actually 8 times 230 calories. So that might be that's almost as 800 calories just from this one food product here. So again, this can be a little confusing for a lot of people, so I want to clarify with you guys about that, okay? And they also have calories from fats. And with this food product, it has 40 calories in that nutrition facts. So when you guys go down, deep down, total fat is 8 grams, and it's 12% of your daily value right here. And then saturated fats are 1 gram, and that's 5% of your daily value. So the daily value is based on an average American in the United States based on their needs. So 8 grams is 12% of their daily value per se. And when you go down the list, it has all these nutrients: cholesterol, sodium, total carbohydrates, and you can see that it has fiber here as well. That's very important. You always want to try to get as much as you need from here. And it has sugar. And what I'm going to try to talk about is that this right here, this area here, can be very confusing because a lot of diabetics and a lot of people who are very concerned with their sugar levels, they don't include the added sugar or the natural sugar in there as well. And then they have the protein as well, right here, 3 grams, and has all the vitamins and minerals right over here, okay? So we're gonna I just gave you a little overview of it. So the total fat here, the total fat, the saturated fat, trans fat, cholesterol, and sodium, these ones you wanna try to get 5 or less here, okay? So this total fat right here is not the best based on what fat is in there. So you can see that saturated fat has 1 gram. You want to try to get 5 or less, that's pretty good. And cholesterol has 0 milligrams, so it has 0% of your daily value. That's pretty good. And sodium has 160 milligrams, and that's 7%. Again, you always want to try to get 5% or less, which is good for these 3 groups right here, okay? And when you go down the total carbohydrates, you want to try to keep in mind not the number of carbohydrates, but the number of total dietary fiber. Because dietary fiber is very, very important. I talked about it in the last segment that I had, and it's very important because it's really good for your intestinal tract and for your GI, and try to absorb all the nutrients and water for your body to use. The small intestines and the large intestines are where your most absorption of your nutrients go from, okay? So you want to try to get at least 20% or more for this right here, because it's a good idea to get as much as you need for total dietary fiber, okay? And sugar here, 1 gram. Again, it's a little confusing because it doesn't tell you how much sugar there is, added sugars in there, or it's natural sugar. And then protein here, you want to try to get based on your activity level and how much strength training or how much exercise you're doing, because you're going to be straining your muscles and you're going to be ripping muscles, and you need protein to build up. And it's very important that you talk to someone who is a registered dietitian to meet your basic needs based on how much calories you need and how much fat you need based on your disease or your goal. If you want to lose weight, talk to a registered dietitian that's in weight management group, and they will definitely guide you through that, okay? And then vitamins and minerals, again, those are the ones you want to try to get to at least 20% or more, okay? It's very, very important, because you want to try to get vitamin A for night blindness. If you have a deficiency in vitamin A, you're going to get a lot of conditions involving night blindness. You won't see at night. Vitamin C is for immunity, so it's based on antioxidant properties, so it helps you with getting replenishing your cells, trying to get rid of things that it doesn't need. Your calcium is based on your bone health, how much you're rebuilding, breaking bones. And you want to try to get that, especially if you're over the age of 50 and you're a female, because you have a higher being prone to osteoporosis. And iron is very important as well too, because it actually helps with absorption of oxygen with your blood, and helps with heme to absorb the oxygen to carry out throughout your body, okay? So I just gave you a little overview of the nutrition facts, and I want to talk about another one. It's my favorite snack. I'm going to be a little bit biased, but this was a childhood thing for me, and I do want to bring awareness to this because it shows the ingredients as well too. Over here it shows enriched corn meal. That's the first ingredient in there, okay? The second one is vegetable oil, and then the next one is, I want to say it's a flaming hot seasoning. So flaming hot seasoning, it sounds like monodextrin, which might be very unknown to a lot of people, because I believe it's a type of insoluble fiber, and it has salt, sugar, but it doesn't tell you how much sugar it has. So when you guys look at the ingredients, try to keep in mind the first 5 ingredients, wherever it has the most of, okay? Because it's very important, because if it's something that you're not really aware of, you're not really familiar with the name, or you're not familiar where it comes from, ask someone, talk to someone. You can even talk to me, or even a registered dietitian to me, or clarify with it for you, okay? And it shows the serving size of 1 ounce of hot Cheetos is 160 calories. So the 21 pieces from that bag, it's 1 serving, and it has all this nutrients here. Total fat, there's 17%. So it is a little bit high. Saturated fat, it is a little bit high as well too. But the good thing is that it doesn't have any trans fat. Trans fat is something that we've banned from the nutrition field to include in there, because it definitely plays in a big effect in heart disease as well too, okay? Sodium, it's pretty high as well too. If you're an athlete, again, sodium, it can be very well to replenish your electrolytes to help out. But there is another electrolyte that I'm going to be talking about that's very, very, very important compared to sodium as well, okay? In here, it has less than 1 gram of total fiber here. So again, hot Cheetos doesn't have the most important type of carbohydrate in here, so you may want to try and avoid it. But there is a little bit of benefit to it compared to all the other snacks, because it does have a little bit of vitamins and minerals in there. But again, having too much of something good can be bad in a way because of the calories. It does play a big effect when you're not keeping in mind of how much servings there is in 1 bag of hot Cheetos, okay? So we are done looking at that. That's just giving you an idea of what a nutrition facts will look like based on hot Cheetos. And when you're shopping, it's very important to look at this as well too, because it does play a big effect in people's choices as well. So since we just talked about an overview of what hot Cheetos look like and what nutrition facts looks like, we're going to go over the new proposed nutrition facts. It's going to be changing within the next year with a lot of companies. And here you can see that we have the current one here, and it shows you the same thing on the other side. But the reason why they changed it is because they want to bring more emphasis on the serving sizes and how much calories there is per serving size. Since they made it bold, they want you to keep in mind that this is a lot of calories per serving, and there's not a lot of people that are just gonna have one serving. They're gonna have, if it's a bag of hot Cheetos, they might have even half the bag or even the whole bag, and they're eating that times the amount of how much servings there is. So here they're not going to be putting emphasis on the serving size because it is just a standard, but they want to put a bigger emphasis on the serving size per container and how much calories there is. So there is a bigger emphasis on this areas too, because there is more research based on how much people need for the daily value here, okay? And so there is a new group that's added on here, and it's potassium and vitamin D compared to vitamin A and vitamin C, because there's a lot of people that are reaching those goals and they decided to not include it, but they decided to include vitamin D and potassium because some people don't meet the recommendations. And if you guys remember me talking about sodium, potassium is the other electrolyte that is very important for a lot of athletes. So they decided to add vitamin D and potassium in the mixture because they want to emphasize how much people are not getting enough vitamin D, or how many people are not getting enough potassium in their diets. And if you guys remember, I talked about sodium here for a lot of athletes. Potassium is the other electrolyte that's very important for a lot of people to keep in mind, because it is a great alternative for people who are very who are hypertensive, who have heart condition. This is very important to keep in mind because potassium is the other one that balances out sodium. So if you have high sodium consumption, that means that there's sometimes a low consumption of potassium in there. So it's very, very important to keep in mind, okay? So I just talked about the proposed nutrition facts. It's gonna be changing from within the next year. The FDA, which is the Food and Drug Administration, decided to change it because the current one was over 20 years old. So they need to keep up with the research that's happening with the nutrition field. And this is definitely the number one thing people look at to based on their food choices, okay? So just gonna give you a little history about the food choices here. I have a little bit of these notes that I want to keep in mind for people who are really considerate about it, because the labels they now are going to be including the added sugar in there now, okay? Because rather than fruits and vegetables who do have sugar in there, natural sugar, they want to put emphasis on the sugars, the added sugars, because it was confusing to put just sugar. There's not enough of emphasis on how much sugar there is or how much natural sugar there is, so they decided to separate them. So the labels are now going to include added sugars in there, okay? So if you guys can see here on the proposed one, they have added sugars under the sugars here. So that fruit group doesn't have any added sugar, but it does have a gram maybe of natural sugar in there, okay? So it's there included because they need to put more emphasis on why our sugars are added for sweetness and for preserving the foods, okay? And honey's included, sugars included, food concentrates are included in those under the added sugars, okay? So when we go next on the next thing on here is that, again, vitamin C and vitamin A are not included because people are meeting the recommendations, and there's going to be more emphasis on vitamin D and potassium, and there's going to still be a big focus on iron and calcium because there's not enough people getting those recommendations and they're not meeting them, okay? So when you see on the new proposed nutrition facts, there's going to be an area where it's gone, and that's calories from fats, because instead of focusing on how much calories are in fat, we need to focus on the importance of the different types of fat and what fats are in there. For example, monounsaturated fats and polyunsaturated fats, they are good in a good amount, and they need to be met in the recommendations based on the Academy of Nutrition Dietetics. And that's good because people worry about fat and how much calories it produces, but we need to make sure of what kind of fat there is in there compared to, again, the caloric intake from fat. So they decided to say goodbye to that because we need to put more emphasis on the types, okay? And there's gonna be changing daily value on few nutrients like sodium, fiber, vitamin D. They're gonna change because, again, sometimes they're not meeting the recommendations and sometimes they are meeting the recommendations. So they're meeting the recommendations based on a bunch of updated research from different types of American nutrition companies and associations, okay? So again, I'm just gonna go down the list and see what else we need to talk about. And so everyone needs to keep in mind that the nutritional facts are changing within the next year, and smaller companies are having another year added on there to change their nutrition facts. And again, just to give you a little close, the nutrition facts are very important to keep in mind because might be the number one thing why people choose these certain foods. And there is a lot of confusion about how much calories are in a bag or how much calories are in groups of foods, and you need to keep in mind about the serving size and the serving size and how big the serving is, okay? So it's very important to keep that in mind, okay? So everyone's going to be seeing this within the next year or two, depending on the company. And the reason why the FDA made these changes because it is old, and it is 20 years old. And they want to kind of reflect the current nutrition research and provide a more reasonable source for people to combat or confront the obesity problem. It's very important to keep in mind how much calories are in nutrition facts, and this is going to be helping out with the obesity problem, with the heart disease problem, the diabetes problems that we have in America and in our society. So in closing, thank you guys so much for watching my podcast or my segment on Eating Healthy with Robert Couto. If you guys have any questions, you guys are more than welcome to email me. Maybe even if you guys want me to talk about something else, like for example, any foods that might be high on vitamin C or on iron, give me some suggestions. Maybe that talk or that topic is going to be discussed in the next 15 minutes with me, okay? So thank you guys so much for watching Eating Healthy with Robert Couto, and hope you guys have a nice day, okay? See ya!